Welcome to my first video and recording for Kerk's Cading Compendium. I will be reviewing footage of my gameplay. As you can see here, in my first game, I'm collecting props from the map. I think we're playing on something castle. It's a big small map remake. The shooting angle for this gen is absolutely insane, so it should be a free win, but later in the video you'll see why we lose. The footage here is sped up to about 6 times speed just to cut down the video time. You can see I'm staging props here. This is actually 2x speed while I'm placing the core here. You can see I use my T-Cal to align the prop, holding shift there, hold it still. I'm not really going to go too much into detail about the finer details of cading. I'm going to assume that you've already know how to adjust props, nail them, unnail them, stuff like that. If you're looking for those details, I'll put a Steam guide down in the comments below. But we do lose this game. It's both H team's fault, and zombie team does play it quite well. And I'll show you the moment where they make some pretty good plays. But yep, and I got a standard split top and bottom cade here. I do like these green tables here. They're pretty good for nesting, which is when you place a prop within another prop. The props have collision with each other and players that are a separate collision box. Sometimes props can go inside each other. But as you can see, I'm layering thin props because they fit between the doorway and the core prop, which is my green shelf there and the green table. And there we go, I'm nesting there with the gray shelf. Yep, and then not afraid to unnail and renail so I can get better usage of my props. Sometimes it takes a little bit extra planning. As you can see, someone died there. It looks like there was a wave 2 devour. If you're not familiar with that boss, he has a hook and he can pull you out of the cade if you're not standing behind the shield. I always take force field emitter, anticipating a ranged boss wave 2. If you're not taking force field emitter, sorry to break it to you, but you're throwing. Um, if I were playing zombie and I didn't see a force field emitter on a cade, I would immediately go a ranged boss and punish that. And Butcher is a good option for that. He can throw lots of frying pans and knives through a cade. Yep, and the footage slows down here. See, I got a nail gun because our damage is pretty abysmal. Um, and we're in wave 3 now, so we're waiting to see the second boss. I think it's going to be a Shade from Switch, if I recall correctly. To devour, and he's really disrespecting the cade. As you can see, he's hugging on this long corridor. He has to walk all the way up and then all the way back to be safe. So you can tell that we're really not shooting at all because that devour should be dead 10 times over. We had even a bunch of tier 1s. Tier 1 guns would have done enough damage to kill him. And there's a switch he's thrown props in. I'm being pretty vigilant and catching them for a little bit here, but soon enough you'll notice that oh, there I go, feeling the kill feed as the cater. That's not a good sign. Throw grenades there, trying to punish the double boss stack on the cade. Someone dies to a prop there. I think they died to a prop. I think that snark might have finished him off. Yep, people are still dying. There's a surveyor throwing bags as well. And I'm just buying med caps, throwing med bombs, putting all my deployables. As you notice, I'm only opening the arsenal menu half the time. I'm actually using pre-made keybinds for buying ammo, like pulse ammo and nails, stuff like that. It's not too often that I have to buy things like zappers. Usually I only have to buy 2 in a game. But things like force field emitters, I have to buy for that. The same applies for repair field emitters. Those can get broken pretty easily by either Tickle or Snarks. As you can see, they just got blown up by a Snark. And they are Snark rushing, which is a viable strategy. You'll notice the next wave here, the Snark rush actually does pay off because I am distracted trying to keep my shields up so this Devourer can't pull any more people and kill them. And it is your responsibility as a cater to keep Cade safe. So if the shield goes down and it's not up, um, it's the DPS's job to pressure the zombie team and the bosses enough so they can't, peek the Cade, but it's also your responsibility to manage the shield, manage the props, manage repairs. I know it can be a lot, especially if the shooters aren't doing their job, which is exactly what's happening here. But at this very moment, you see I'm trying to move the shields around and off the ground. So, oh, there it is. There's a prop kill from the radiator. You can see Jingle Jill showers with the radiator and killed another player. And that's the straw that broke the camel's back, I think, in this one. As you can see, the bottom is about to break. I'm throwing every throwable I can. I'm dead. All right, let's go on to the next video. Okay, starting the next video here. Load into the map, Sinister School. I immediately claim my generator and start staging props so that I can make room for more props. Once again, we're on 6 times speed. Oh yeah, teleport there to go grab some map keyboards that I can scrap. Yep, scrapped them, made some nails. Make sure to use a remat so the person who has the remat can actually get the scrap from me crafting the nails. If you're not aware, when you use a rematler that a player owns, they get a portion of scrap from you um, for free. It's just you just generate scrap. The rematler is incredibly powerful, deployable. I would say it's the most powerful deployable in the game. It scales basically with the players in the game. As the game gets later, they earn more and more points, and they spend more and more scrap. And so essentially, it's a deployable that scales with the players in the game, unlike something like the resupply that can only have a cooldown of 60 seconds. I would argue the resupply is better at a higher population because there's more players using resupplies, but the same is true for the rematler. So um, if you're choosing deployables out of all the deployables to take for your own point gain and just for the strength of the team, um, resupply is lowest on the tier. It's if Rematler is S tier, then resupply is D tier. It's pretty weak compared to the rest of the deployables. Um, of course, Arsenal is pretty good too. I would say it's S tier just because you can have it on your back and you can be running around buying things whenever you need them. Yep, still grabbing props from the map here. You can see it's wave 1. I've already finished my core there. Um, so I'm just trying to grab as many props as possible and stage them, preparing for whatever pressure the bosses are going to put on this Cade. Yep, the force field up. I try to put the force field in a place where the bosses can't easily see or reach it. If they can see the force field emitter, then it's easy for them to come up with a plan on how to destroy it and pressure the Cade. There's lots of methods to protect the force field emitter, but in this game, it doesn't end up being an issue. It's really up to the zombie team and what bosses they have to decide whether or not they need to break the force field emitter. But as you can tell here, I'm just doing everything I can to stage props, make space for potentially junk packs and prop duplicators at some point. And I think we have a few other competent caters on, so I don't receive quite as much pressure from the zombie team as you would expect. Um, like in the previous game, there's the nightmare. But yep, I'm teleporting around using nail gun, trying to get points. When there's other competent caters on, what ends up happening is you actually point starve pretty much the entire game, unless they attack your Cade. I buy the nail gun here, anticipating that the bosses are going to split, which is when there's multiple Cades up, and the bosses will pressure one Cade while the zombie horde pressures another. And it can be an effective strategy for taking down one Cade, but uh, it's if it doesn't work, you kind of throw the game as a zombie team because if the humans are able to kill the horde over and over again and you don't manage to kill the other gen, then the human team just gets scaled up to get all the points they need and they win. And so I buy the nail gun anticipating a split attack, and it's exactly what happens in this game. And uh, I think the humans are pretty greedy this game. Uh, we we don't spend our points, we don't tier up our weapons, we don't have enough DPS as usual. And I hate to always blame the DPS, but DPS can really carry just about any game. All they have to do is buy the right guns and mouse one on the doorway. Um, And obviously a bad barricade can make it impossible to DPS, but um, we have three pretty decent caters, including myself, hitting three generators, so there's plenty of opportunity to point farm. All they have to do is not greed and just get enough damage, and so we don't get boss stacked. And I think you'll see here, I think wave 5 we're about to go into, start seeing some bosses stacking up. I think they're also nest swapping here, and that's why you can tell the zombies stop, and they start again, and they stop, and they start again. Yep, there's the nightmare, there's the bone mesh. They're really trying to force this Cade. I'm just replacing, keeping the pressure off with the nail gun. Nail gun's an interesting tool. It's been nerfed. It used to be like it costs 60 points, so it's the cost of a tier 3, but it used to have the power of a tier 5, so it was pretty busted. Now it's more in line with tier 3. I would say it's still a little bit stronger than most tier 3s because you don't have to reload, and it can repair both props and shoot zombies, which is pretty versatile. And there goes my gen. And you can see my score in the top left there. I have 1,500 points, so I did not point starve that game. Usually when your Cade falls, you do your best to support the other Caders. Because I have nail gun, I don't pivot into a gun here, and I just hyper repair. You can see I think I'm the only one repairing. There's no repair field emitter close enough to the props there to repair them, and I'm almost staying on par with the Horde there with repairs. I'm not sure who's gating this. It might be Nutpike. It looks like they choke here, so I come in to support them with replacements, and one of my replacements is a little bit too low. You'll see here in a second. We should be able to blockade, but just nobody's shooting, so that's the game there. I think everybody else already abandoned as soon as it was looking shady, so that's pretty standard. Lots of boom stickers, and the caterer themselves abandoned, so me replacing there wasn't troll, because as you can see, Nutpike is jumping around with I think it's a boomstick or something. But yeah, as you noticed in the start of this video, I don't have a hammer in my hand. I actually have claws out. That's because I started on zombie team intentionally. I do this on occasion just because it's more fun to play zombies. Um, I am harassing a cater. Was this A bar here on mall map? Because he does not have good airlock, good secure on the gen, and there it goes. He's dead. That was Romero. I think he's still learning how to cade. So yep, there you go. You can be saying it's my gen. Um, I'm about to redeem. All you need is 3 brains. So if you get the last hit on 3 humans, you can rejoin human team. And there's a recent buff to the Redeemer kit, so all I need to do is get in there and kill whoever is AFK on that generator. I think it's E skill. Um, I anticipate getting shot in the back, so I hop off with right click to turn into head grab. Look, they can't kill me. And bam. Now I'm on human team. I forget I have guns here for a second, because I'm a Redeemer. So I very quickly make this generator secure, claim the gen, and start moving props in to where I actually want to cade. Um, in this game, you'll see that I expect this Cade to fall. I don't really have a proper cading kit as a Redeemer. I have a hammer and muscular, which are must-haves for cading, but I don't have a force field emitter start. And Panda is cading, so and he's cading a pretty good gen. I know you don't see it, but I looked at it pre-wave 1, and he knows what he's doing. Um, so I just anticipate using this as almost like a point farm. It's hard to tell how the game's going to go, but usually Panda knows what he's doing. As you can see, someone was trying to cave there on my gen. I took that prop and utilized it for my own purposes. Still moving props until the zombies attack. Once the zombies attack, I'm going to switch to my dualies and shoot. I do my best to make good callouts here. Wave 2 has started, and we're waiting to see which boss it is. I'm reinforcing with all the props that I can. I'm moving as quickly as possible because Wave 2 has already started. As you can see, I'm trying to use the resupply. I have to have line of sight from my feet, I think, to actually connect with the resupply of the generator. So I use the table there and I jump on top. But doing anything too fancy here. I see the nest coming up, so I call it. And I As you can see, I'm not shooting the nest. I actually want to farm it for a little bit. I'm trying to get off the dualies. The dualies aren't the greatest pistols past wave 2. They're serviceable, but I'd like to buy like a tier 4 or tier 5 after this wave is over. And I'm about to make the call to fall back. Yep, there's the call. You can see the prop only has 500 health, and there's a boss hugging it. If a boss is hugging it with 500 health, it's gonna die. We just don't have the repairs. We don't have the damage to kill a tank at that time, which is fine. It's wave 2. No reason to throw and try to keep what 2 extra props. That's what we lose. We lose 2 props on the tops there. It's about 1,000 prop health. No reason to have anybody die for that. Shooting the tank whenever I see him, repairing props whenever they're not attacking. In the intermission, you see I buy uh, probably not the best gun for me to buy, but I sometimes I like to experiment with different forms of DPS. The DPS ends up being fine. Someone calls out that it's a 2 plus. So as you can see, I put a force field emitter on one side and it just pops up to block the puke on the left side. Only really so much you can do to stop people from dying to bosses. As a cater, you can make it as safe as you possibly can, and they'll still find a way to die. And you'll see that in a few minutes here. That they'll find a way to die to the puke bus. Like there's a gap in there in the force fields, which is intentional. So we can take damage for the medics to farm the puke a little bit, and they still manage to just hug the gap instead of standing where it's safe in the jab. So um, yeah, it's pretty fun when people just seemingly play with their monitors turned off, but there's not too much you can do about that. Just doing everything I can to farm this game. You'll see I'll go to minigun at some point because we just simply don't have enough damage as usual. And the minigun is really point inefficient when it comes to shooting, but it does lots of damage. I don't think there's a single weapon that actually compares, at least a ranged weapon that compares to the damage of the minigun. Yep, and I call A's dead. I was actually going to stay a little bit longer, but when people started leaving, I said, you know what, this is going to fall really quickly once all the shooters leave, so I'm just going to leave now and call it dead. Um, so it's a judgment call to be made. Unfortunately, we waste that prop on the bottom there. But this is a Pandicade, pretty good V-Cade here, really good shooting angles, really good replacements. Wait for his ending. There we go, here's the minigun. Giving everything I can to Panda to support him. Trust him as a cater, he's printing props. And yep, more gameplay of me holding mouse one on the doorway. You can see the kill feed there, picking up most of it. The points are just shooting up. About to hit 1k points here. And when you see my ammo on the bottom right, it's shooting down pretty quickly. It's just the nature of the minigun, obviously, but I can spam press Q to buy small boxes of ammo. It's not super efficient, but we're not really worried about point efficiency at all. We're worried about prop health. So every microsecond counts when there's this many zombies just wailing on the gate and are completely out of props. If you look at the generator, there's no props in here. So if we had a stupid amount of props, oh, healing myself and throwing a med bomb because I'm low. You saw on the bottom left, I had 23 health there for a second, which is enough for the tickle to slap me once and kill me. I'm throwing junk packs, and I'm gonna nail the props and stage them for Panda. He doesn't have the time to throw the junk packs and stage the props himself, and unfortunately, the nature of junk packs, we should have used them all earlier in the game, and we should have been reserving the metal props from the prop duplicator there. But the kid's about to fall here. Look at the top. We're about to be just the core, and look, there's the shade shield.
Don't be a coward. Stay. Don't be a coward.
So I'm begging H team to stay. We can bullet kid this easily.
It's fine. Don't be
But
a
look,
coward.
you can see the little poofs of blue, and then that person who just died there, that was the cater. That was Panda. So I teleport out.
Cowards.
I would have stayed if I think Panda survived, but he was too low. Medics, I think, might have abandoned or died earlier. He was the Bizine to kill me, which is fine. The game was over.
Goddamn cowards.
That's a frustrating loss for sure for Wave 6, but Panda was carrying his ass off. Look, I'm looking at this shitcade here, but I think it's time for us to go on to our next video. I'll show a wincade next. Alright, getting started with the next video, next skating match. I am barricading this time. I'm not starting as a zombie. and um, sometimes you get a shit pile. If you're not familiar with the term, it's pretty self-explanatory. You get too many props to manage, and you'll see in this game that the gen room is pretty unmanageable. Um, but if you're skilled enough, you can definitely make it work. Um, and it's a bit of a meme for me. I actually enjoy when there's this many props. I think it's kind of fun to try to make it work. Um, it's I think the most difficult part is trying to figure out how to make it work when you don't have enough nails to start. But once you get a few more resupplies, a few more nails, some scrap to work with, like nails, you can start organizing it and really whittling down the number of props. Um, I think I would have had a much easier time managing these props if I didn't have this big old vending machines in there. Um, but this is a win, and you'll see why once I build the Cade. Um, I'm just gonna speed through this whole video because nothing super interesting happens here. In fact, it's a pretty uninteresting game. Bosses don't really do anything beyond just standing around hitting things. They don't pressure in any interesting way. I think the most the most interesting thing that happens is maybe they try to use Vortigons to break our shields and snipe us through arcade, which isn't a super viable strategy if everybody has armor, health, defensive trinkets, and the force fields go up and down pretty frequently, but it's just not enough for them to really get anything done. Do a little bit of shooting there, but that's just because I found a gun on a bag, so it might have disconnected or died or something. Not really entirely sure. But this entire barricade is just a washing machine on the bottom, washing machine on the top, and then pictures to layer. And that's about it. Nothing else. So I already brought all these other props in, which is great as backups. I think I might use a handful of them here and there to either like block the windows, and light farm, and whatnot. But this just goes to show that you really don't need to do anything too crazy with gating, especially if you just have what is the equivalent of an old-timey arcade, which used to be meta just for just about every single game. If you weren't door gating, like you're just not doing the easy best thing to do, which is layer a bunch of thin props that have a ton of health in front of your core props, and then the zombies never get in because you built a barricade that you never have to replace on, which means you can shoot. And you'll see in this game, I do quite a bit of shooting as the cater, which um, doesn't happen every game. Um, I know it seems like I shoot quite a bit when I'm cating, but um, I find the game to be more interesting when people are forced to stick to their roles. As you see, that prop's about to die to the butcher through the window, so I actually pull it back to get the points out of it, and then I'll put it back up there so he can destroy it for me. Um, and I'd imagine the reason they're doing that is because they want to get the windows open so they can harass us, but in reality, they're actually just helping me remove one of the biggest props from my overcrowded gen room. But yeah, just using all the ammo on this gun for this is wave four. It's a pretty boring game. Not a lot happens for about 30 minutes. It's not until like the last 10 minutes of the game that anything really happens. Yep, there it is. Farming these vending machines for points. Again, to get points out of that vending machine before I put it back. Staging more props. And this gen room at one point was filled to the brim, impossible to walk through. You trip on a prop and probably die um, from prop physics. And now we're at the point where you can easily maneuver around in it, stage props. So when people ship pile, um, it's really not troll. The role of the cater is just to hang out in the den room for a while and move props around. So I think people who complain about getting shit piled with props are just inexperienced. Maybe they don't know how to manipulate props in a way that really benefits them. But you can see I'm using the Hephaestus cannon, and the reason I buy this gun, it's a tier 5. I actually have a hotkey bound for it. I'll put that in the comments below so you can make the hotkey yourself when you're kidding. But this is an exfil map. You know it's an exfil if you look at the top left. There's a little red exfil word with a little guy running towards the door, which means we have to leave the cade um, at the end of wave 6 and move to a little bounding box zone that we need to stand in order to get safely leave. Replacing bottom left there, probably not the best play. Um, that's where most of my shooters are standing. So I force them to phase. I do warn them that they're going to phase, but um, just because you warn a shooter they're going to end up being phasing doesn't mean they're going to move out of the way. So another thing to consider. The phase is a really interesting weapon. Um, because you're multitasking, you can be holding left mouse when you're looking at the doorway, and when you're not looking at the doorway, you can hold right mouse to charge up your next big attack. But I end up not needing to use the faces to escape, and we get out. Here's a bonus clip for you guys. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. I know it's a bit of a long one. Um, please leave a comment if you like any changes to the structure of Kirk's Compendium, or if you have questions about what to do next, Merlin Decade, any guides, I'll post in the comments below.
I
Thank you.
see.